This little new zoo. It's North American based. It's just in temperate biome. I started off with building a little food area on the left of the entrance, and again on the right with a little diamondback turtle viewing area, which is like native to this area, to like the aquatic area around it, where I placed my zoo. Here's the staff area, some more seating, and the first animal built here was penguins. It's like the big penguins. Underwater viewing area. We just unpause it so you can actually see them swim. Quite a few penguins in here. Made a little drop down for the guests. Then up here again we have a bit of just like a guest area, nice guest area. This is like one of the hard shelters for penguins. That's just like a default shelter that I customized a bit. It's like a default aquatic shelter. I did some rock work on it to make it more in the way I wanted it to be. And the rest is just this custom, or not custom, it's just like a default fence that I use as a habitat barrier. Bit of a seating area for animal dogs. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's get into building my giraffe enclosure. Initially starting off here, I didn't have much of an idea what I wanted to do, besides making a giraffe enclosure. So I started off building this little viewing platform, which makes sense for most giraffe habitats, as of course they're very large creatures, so you want to be a bit higher up. I think most zoos do this, most zoos do this, and also most Planet Zoo players do this. Here I'm starting to build a bit of a custom fence, as that is something I want to do more and more, as well it gets a bit boring to have the same just default fence over and over again. It also, most of the default fences don't look that good, so I'm using the conversation wood planks here. And just trying to figure out how I'm going to fit the habitat gate in here. Which works like that, which ended up looking pretty good. Now I'm going to build this custom fence a bit further around it. Which was kind of annoying, and the weird thing with these pieces is there's actually nothing connecting the planks in between. So you either have to just pretend that there's some sort of, I don't know, small metal rod in between them that you can see in game, or you have to make some sort of connection of your own, which is sort of what I end up doing, as I grab these poles from this restaurant, which is also part of the enclosure. The restaurant's one of the default like blueprints that you get with the conservation pack, I'm pretty sure. And I really liked how that glass floor, which was exactly what I wanted to build in the first place. I was thinking, oh, restaurant, I'm gonna add a glass floor and you can see into the habitat, but then I saw that it was already a blueprint and I was like, well, I've never used it, so why not? It's kind of a bit cheesy, a bit lazy, but whatever. Here I continue to add these poles to make it look like it's actually not a, well, floating planks next to each other, to give them a bit of a support. I really like the way this blueprint looks. Here I'm gonna grab more of the walls, fix them up, and continue the wall a bit further along, making sure the rotation is right, which was slightly annoying. It's a bit weird how you have these supports. There's like a big gap of supports there next to the habitat gate, but I think it doesn't look too bad. I think it looks alright. Of course, paths are just one of the worst things in the game, as always. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna work these. I want to have a straight path going out, so I have to. It took me a little bit to figure out. I just have to place a path down already before like this, before I take the path off, which allows me to make that little circle there. Then I'm gonna start on a bit of as I didn't have much of an idea what I was gonna do here again. I'm gonna build a shelter for the giraffes, so it needs to be a tall shelter, obviously. First I was thinking I want to make one of those round ones that everyone makes, that most zoos have. But I just started like looking for what I was going to use, and then I just made this line like this. And this is sort of accidental what I stuck with, so it doesn't end up being that complicated of a shelter. But I do like, because these planks obviously aren't like right next to each other, you should be able to like just get a little bit of a peek into the shelter without it be feeling too open for any animals. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to raise it, as I forgot that you're supposed to hold the shift button. There, I got it. My mistake here already is that I'm going off these poles on the side, the like sort of supporting beams for the size of the habitat, causing me when I'm starting to go work on the roofs, which I'm starting to figure out now, like how am I continuing this? Am I gonna make like a round roof or whatever? It's gonna be tough as those you can't just fit them in as the size isn't perfect anymore. It's not the same as the walls around it, so it's not a 4x4, which I should have left like that. So instead of having that pole sort of make an outside connection, I should have had the walls connect together and then just add the pole in the corner. Here I'm still not sure what I'm doing, so I'm just sort of adding random stuff, seeing if I can figure something out, get a bit of inspiration, which I'd end up not really getting, as it just ends up being here. I'm scrolling through and just grab, let me see, I don't remember what it's called. Well, these things, just corner pieces. And this is just what's gonna be the roof. I have to like, and here already I'm running into my first issue, as I have to like manually place it, as it doesn't fit perfectly because of those corners. Also should have done that one earlier. As you can clearly see, I'm very, very new into making buildings, even though the game is very old. I've had the game for a while. Anytime I build a zoo, I just spend like a couple hours on just making some random stuff. And yeah, I have like less than maybe like 50 hours in the game total of actual playing time. So this is like the first times of me. Like I made, the zoo I made before this one, I did have a bit more I made like indoor habitats, which was a lot of fun to build, which is why I'm continuing that now. Well, not an indoor habitat, but at least a custom shelter. As any other custom shelter that I've made has just been like rocks, basically. There's a bunch of rocks to make a bit of a shelter underneath. And here you see me really struggling with the fact that it's not the default sizes. How do you say this? The roofs and the walls aren't at the default distance from each other. I'm pretty sure it's like 4 meters or something. And because of the panels on the side, it's the roofs are a bit further away from each other. We end up with this little hole in the middle, which I wasn't sure how to fix at first, but then I figured out, why not just place glass? Adds a bit of like extra detail to it, and ends up looking better than it would have if the roof just fit perfectly, in my opinion. So, bit of a happy little accident there. Just figuring out how I'm gonna do the glass here. I mean, the animals inside wouldn't really need that much extra natural lighting, as the walls already let through a lot of light, as they have those gaps in between the planks. But still, it looks pretty good. But then I found out that I'm like a tiny bit short on the end, but I'm just like, oh, I'll figure that out later. Don't worry about it. So I place it where I want it to be in the habitat. Wow, words are hard today. And I play the game. So now I'm starting to figure out, well, the front looks kind of empty. So I'm thinking, what can I do here? Am I gonna add some prop to the pillars or whatever? So I end up just adding these beams to the front of the roof. Just add a bit more detail on it, a bit more depth. And also, what it ends up doing is that little bit that the glass is sticking, not out, it's the opposite. The indent in the glass is gonna be able to be hidden like this. So just copying into the other side, making sure everything lines up. The pixels there are a bit fighting with each other for some reason, but that ends up resolving itself, so no worries. And I just add a little something in the middle here. Not sure what I do, but I do something. I'm looking through everything. Like, this is what I do when I have zero inspiration for what it actually has to be. I just look through every bit of, like, every prop until I see something. But I end up just going for a very basic plank. I think one of the ones I already like selected earlier. Yeah, this one. It's not even the same color as the beams, but that's fine. Doesn't look perfect, so I'm gonna adjust it a bit to make sure that it lines up better. and I'm just gonna leave it at that. So then I'm starting to realize, well, I have this shelter now, and I have a viewing platform, but I actually have no clue what the inside of the habitat is gonna look like. As again, bit silly of me, but I had no idea. So obvious choice always, add a bit of water somewhere. So I decided this is gonna be the end of the habitat, as I did some checking, and it was like, if it was like that, it was like a bit under 3,000 square meters, which was fine for giraffes, as you can have like 4 or 5 of them in there by now at that size. And at this point, I'm still only thinking about putting the giraffes in. So again, I've just bit of a wooden barrier here. Bit lazy. Maybe I could have instead done rock work here, which might have looked better. As I add at a side, as I'm again struggling with these paths, decide to add paths on the side. Here's a bit of an elevated area that you can watch animals at. As I earlier started playing the game, the season started to change, and I'm pretty sure this zoo is in North America, in like in grasslands, or like temperate in North America. I think temperate. So seasons change pretty often, which is a bit of a struggle for a lot of these animals. As you can see in the background, probably I have penguins there, which complain in the summer that it's too warm, and now I have these giraffes that are complaining in the winter that's too cold. So I have to like use a lot of heaters. Here I decided to use this. I'm not sure what kind of piece it is. Some sort of wall piece probably, as a barrier, as I thought it looked pretty cool. It looked pretty secure in a way that animals wouldn't be able to go through, like big animals. It looked pretty solid, and obviously big viewing areas through it, which the guests should be able to see through. But as I found out later, as I guess struggled with paths, for some reason these giant holes are just solid for the guests, and no guests are looking through it, which is something I have to resolve later in the time lapse, which I will. Here I decide that what a lot of zoos do is add a little bit of a barrier in front of another barrier, especially one like this, which isn't that solid. So I don't want. Here I forgot. I messed up. I didn't realize I was placing him upwards. But you don't want people sticking their arms through or just throwing trash through or whatever, which they still could, but it would take a bit more effort to like. So this is like one of those barriers to keep both the guests and the animals a bit safer from each other. Yeah, I hated placing these like some of the fences in this game. Like you have this mechanic already with the barriers where you can just fit them next to each other, adjust the size and whatever. But then the prop fences are just extremely annoying. Like they already have this feature in place. I kind of feel like they should have allowed you to do the same with other props, just to like link them up. Especially the fence pieces. This makes total sense to me. But yeah, it's a bit weird, I guess, in some senses that the game has both extreme customizability in certain sense with all the props that you can just place anywhere, but then you have other items that are just extremely annoying and like paths where you have to like precisely like they just snap to everything, even if you turn the snapping off, and you can just I feel like paths should have been way easier to customize. The same with some of the animals, enrichment items, where they have to be in very specific spots for the animals to access them, and then also, okay, I don't know what I was doing there, but yeah, here I'm just working on the shelter again. The giraffes aren't happy with the weather. I have to like figure out I have to do some ground painting, and here I continue on the road again, on the path. And I decide, well, let's just keep it as a viewing platform, and guess I want to walk around it. Should just take the road, which is something I'm trying to do more with adding specific spots that like the guests are meant to view the animals, and instead of just having, a square habitat or a rectangular habitat with just one path around it and just glass fences that I can see all the way around. This also makes it a bit easier to make the habitat, I think, as you only have to worry about viewing it from one angle, so you can have some, stuff that that only the animals would see. Doesn't have to be as pretty for the guests, that animals don't care about. Which is a lot easier if you do it like that instead of like this, as I end up having a lot of like empty open areas, which is fine for giraffes. A lot of zoos have that, is like giraffe enclosures, at least good zoos that like have a lot of area for them as they need it. It's mostly just open area. They have sometimes a few trees, sometimes not even that, as that's just what giraffes are used to, just grasslands, and they should be fine with it. But when you're making a zoo in this game, you're trying to make it pretty, and well, pretty means that you're gonna add a lot of rocks, a lot of plants, and these take away a lot of that like walking space that I need, which is unfortunate. But here I ended up deciding, for whatever stupid reason, that I wanted to add rhinos to this exhibit. I didn't want to have just one animal, and for whatever reason, I guess I decided rhinos, which was pretty stupid to make as a last second decision. In the middle of building it, as now I have, as you'll see later, the fences aren't set up to deal with rhinos, as rhinos need like level 4 fences, and I have glass barriers over there, which they can just run through, as they will in a little bit. As here, just place some more plants down, trying to like do this in areas that are already filled up to not take away too much of the square meters that the giraffes need. As now with even more animals in there, as you can see, like a lot of these rocks like just take up so much space already, and the rhinos obviously also reduce the amount of space that they have available to them. So I'm just like adjusting the rocks and like make it take a bit less space up. And I didn't want to completely remove this rock, as then you just have one just giant grass area of grass, sorry. Yeah, I'm just checking out all of the enrichment items. I added like every single one for both animals, to just fill up the space a bit more without taking away any physical space. And here I start to notice that no guests are viewing this area, as I start to figure out, oh, okay, actually just 1 second here, you can see that the rhinos decided to break out. Just they weren't mad or anything, they just saw glass apparently and decided to run through. So I just changed it to like a chain link fence, which was tier 4, or that might, I hope it's not electric, that would, okay, here I changed it to chain link. And here I started working on the fence over there and realized that, well, it's not that the guests for whatever reason can see through this. Is at first I just add those vista points, but then I decide, well, that's just a bit annoying and it doesn't look that good, so I changed the fence up. But no, what I end up doing is just lowering the fence down a bit, and that gives like very minimal but still a bit of access for the guests to see from there, which just is a bit better, as now the guests like wander around the entire enclosure. Yeah, just find a couple education items, and then I'm gonna leave the habitat the way it is, even though it's not very filled. I guess it looks fine. It fits into the zoo. It's just a bit too empty, a bit too simple. The outside of the habitat looks great, just the inside, I should have made a plan before starting to work on it like this. I should have maybe got some inspiration and thought of like more uniquity. So yeah, this is what I ended up with of course the restaurant I started with the little glass viewing area at the bottom. This back view towards the penguins, if the guests would just do more than sit and eat. You can go around with this custom fence, of course see the giraffes in all its glory, and also look into the shelter. If you go around, this of course is all going to be filled up, and that water is just temporary. That's just to make sure that they don't drink this dirty water, which it still is. Actually, I have to fix it up because it doesn't have electricity. I didn't think of that. They of course have the walkway that I've shown. And yeah, this is how it ended up. Of course, the fence is lowered, so guests actually stand around here now, trying to see the animals, which is a lot better than all of them just crowded up in this little area. But yeah, it's a bit too empty, some areas in my opinion, but I don't hate the way it ended up. Thank you for watching.